Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Entrepreneurial Hairstylist Summit. I am so excited. You guys are in for a treat today for our guest expert. Today, we have Elizabeth Faye. Elizabeth is a hairstylist, salon owner, and globally recognized life and business coach, speaker, and author who teaches ambitious hair professionals, hair educators, and salon owners how to build their dream lives and careers complete with unapologetic wealth. Elizabeth is the founder and creator of the Hair Love University, a community-based education company offering everything from dreamy, immersive retreats, masterminds, digital events, and coaching to elevate the artists, salon owners, and educators of the beauty industry. And she is also the host of the Hair Love Radio podcast, which personally has become one of my new favorites, a platform to amplify the voices of beauty industry professionals. And in addition to the many, many hats that she wears, the most important one, I believe, is probably that you are a mother too. So thank you so much for being here today, Elizabeth.
I'm excited to be here. Hi.
Yes, awesome. So, yes, I appreciate you being here. I have been following you for a while and came across your work and just was immediately attracted to it. And, that's never a mistake. And yeah, I got to learn a little bit more about your story, and I'm obsessed with it. I love how you got to where you are. I love just all of the details that got you to the place that you are at. And so I want to dive into a little bit of that today, like how you got to where you're at and the things that you've gone through. And so let's just start off with talking about, when you were younger, you have mentioned that you were sort of like a troubled child. Can you share with everybody? So I listened to something you talked about, and you shared something that you call a business card moment. So can you share the business card moment that actually ended up changing the trajectory of your life?
Yes, yeah, such a fun moment. So I call it a business card moment because I feel like we all have these little moments in our life where someone's like, hey, if you need something, call me. Hey, if you want to come assist me, right, you can come assist me. If, all these like little nudges, and you're going to learn really quick. I'm like very spiritual, and a lot of my work is based in that. But, I call these like nudges from the universe or God, whatever you believe in, right? Our higher power, but universe. And it's like, hey, come this way. And so it's when I look back, I can see, we can connect the dots later. We're like, oh yeah, that all makes sense. I can see how I was guided, where sometimes we don't really notice that in the middle of it. But I was born and raised in Vegas, and I got into a lot of trouble growing up. Pretty dark stuff like drugs, running away, sexual things, abuse, just lots of just hard things. I lived with a lot of different families, got sent away to a lot of different schools, and it was just kind of a mess. Lots of beautiful things too, but it was pretty rough. And in that, adventure of growing up and being a preteen and all of that, going through that, one of the schools I was sent to was a really religious school, and I hated it. And I think it was like a rules, like if I could sum up my coaching style, it's like writing rules on a piece of paper and ripping it in half. Like, there you go.
Yeah.
And then, so anyways, that's how I've always been. And I hated the school. I wanted to get kicked out really bad. And I remember them being like, hey, if your hair is an unnatural color, so blue or whatever, right, you can get kicked out of school. And I was like, well, this is pretty fucking easy. Like, we can make this happen.
Yeah.
And so I stole box color. I did the thing, it was like, I was such a scene kid. I don't know if anyone else was like in a scene kid, like the metal balls and all the all the things.
Yeah, all that. Yeah.
Like, the big, like your parts over here, and you have the little like peacock situation. Yeah. So I was like, it's done. So I did the deed. I went to school. I got kicked out or expelled or whatever they called it. I was like, perfect. So sitting like outside of this school, waiting for my parents to pick me up. Obviously they were going to be pissed, but I got kicked out. And this woman walked by, and whether it was like love or judgment, she handed me a business card and was like, "You should call this hairstylist." And, we could just be like, "Oh, whatever," and let that moment go. And
Mhm.
that's where I'm like, pay attention to the relationships you make in a room, the conversations you have, the offers that are made, the ideas that are pinging you from right source, higher power. Like, are you listening? And so thankfully, my little 12-year-old self was listening. And I was like, yes, we are getting our hair done. It's done. And I ended up going to get my hair done, and it was at the Robert Croming Salon in Mandalay Bay, Las Vegas. So if you're in the hair industry, that's like a big deal salon. Obviously, I didn't know. I wasn't a hairdresser. And so I walk in and was like, holy shit, it's like a beautiful salon.
Yeah.
And those who've been to my retreats, or been around me, like I grew up very humble. My dad's super humble. Like he leads the yoga, like he wears overalls 99% of the time. Like this is not a man who got to fancy salons.
Yeah.
He's walking in like mortified, and I'm like, yes. And I ended up getting my hair done and loving it. He ended up very pissed about the color correction bill. And he's like, yeah, you're not going back. And I ended up saving my money to go back. Fun fact, my father is like a doomsdayer, and he's really prepared for the end of the world. I grew up Mormon, so it's just like makes
Oh,
sense.
no way. Oh, okay,
So
cool.
my whole family's Mormon. Like I was in the church for years. Not now, but I was. But anyways, so like they're all like very prepared for anything. So like so much wood is like wood, like cutting wood for I don't know how many fires he was planning on having, but he could like burn Vegas down. So I had to cut wood to get money, which is like the weirdest chore ever. Especially like in the hood in Vegas. I'm like cutting wood. Like no one has fireplaces. Like so funny. But that's how I saved up money. Went back, put the money on the table, and Brandon was like, put your money away. Like, this is ridiculous. And he made a deal with my father that if I would get better grades on my report card and bring them in, that would be my payment to get my hair done complimentary. And
I
he did that for me post 16.
That's so great. I love this story.
That's crazy.
It's so crazy. And yeah, like I just that this thank you for sharing that, because this is why I think your story is just so fun, because of the way that you grew up and just like, and like it's just so funny. But what I love too is, do you still talk to Brandon? Like, do you still see him or talk to him at all?
So we reconnected multiple times. Like years ago, when I have a son now. So as of the date of recording, he's 8.5. So he was a baby when I got divorced, all the things.
All
But back
that.
then, I got into workshops. Before I did retreats, I did 4 years of workshops. And that's honestly what built our community we have now. But he came to some of my first workshops and supported me. So he's like, I don't even think he's in the industry anymore, but he's like, he'll like DM me or ping me or whatever. And we've gone in and out of like going to dinner and then not or whatever. But yeah.
Yeah, the only reason I'm asking is because I know, like, when I was, going through and looking at your website and stuff, and like a huge belief of yours is that like hairstylists change the world. And I believe you're just like doing a documentary or something that's like really
Yeah.
cool. So, I mean, like hairstylists truly do change the world. And like that story is perfectly embodies that. Like, because I mean, he was so impactful and so empowering for you. Like, that was so cool that he did that for you.
Yeah, so that changed. Obviously, it changed my life, and now in the hair industry, which is how I got into the hair industry, was because of him. We can see like how does a hairdresser change the world? Well, it's the way they make someone feel.
Yeah,
You make me
100%.
feel right, heard, seen, and loved, and that's the gift of this really unique career that we have.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So, and you've kind of touched on this just briefly. I think you hinted that you've gone through some shit in your life, essentially. You've gone through a lot of crazy times. You went through a divorce, and you talk about a time in your life when you really were like white knuckling your life. And so can you just share exactly what does that mean? Like white knuckling your life? Because I think a lot of us are doing it and we don't even realize we're doing it, especially if you're a business owner, like this can
Yeah.
sometimes happen. So can you explain the concept of like what white knuckling your life is? And also, if you don't mind sharing, like a time in your life when you were doing that, and what did it look like? What did it feel like when you were white knuckling your life, and how did that affect you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll give a little perspective now and then I'll shoot it back. So I haven't done hair, I think for 4 years. I've been full-time coach and I've done education almost the same amount, like 50-50. And then it just got to be like salon, influencer, hair, coach, like, oh my gosh, so many jobs. Like I only need 4, not 10.
Yeah.
So long story short, I ended up going to school and getting trained in trauma and all of these sorts of things, honestly due to so much stuff that's happened in my life, whether it was divorce, being a single mom, high school dropout, drugs. I had some massive health issues for people who followed me for a long time, just like chronic pain, and which kind of led to my spiritual awakening and a whole other evolution of my life. But so anyways, I went to school, and so now I work a lot with trauma, which is so funny because I think as hairdressers, we kind of naturally do that with our clients, so much. And then now I certify and train other people who are educators. So a lot of my work is actually with educators. But so that's the work I do now. It's a lot of trauma, a lot of healing work. Energetics, somatics, and subconscious work is what we do in our programs, or we teach other people how to do with their clients. And so when I look back, I can see the white knuckling as a trauma response, right? As the like basically fucking therapist that I am now, I can see that and go, oh, that makes a lot of sense. And so when I say that when we're white knuckling, it's a form of protection. It's a form of protection of self from patterns, childhood. The only way we really know how to do something, and we're trying to move towards whatever it is we desire in life, right? More money, more business, more love, more whatever, more expansion, more evolution, but through the only way that we are available to receive it. And I always think of, if you see the universe, right, in this possibility, like a big circle, your paradigm of what you believe to be possible is like a little circle of that, right? So when we heal, when we do trauma work, when we open our perspective, when we have greater understanding, more loving awareness, we start to crack that open and see, holy shit, all of this around us was available. And so I love the now perspective with old Elizabeth perspective, because I think we can all learn something from that. Is when you're white knuckling, I share the story in one of my keynotes how, I was driving through, and this I think was around my health issues is the way I shared this story, but I've had millions of little moments, right? Leaving religion, divorce, single mom, business shit, all the things that happen in life, right? As we all do. Everyone has painful things that are happening for us to evolve, really. And so those are those moments. So imagine you're driving in your car and you got your hands gripping as tight as you can grip, where you're white knuckling the steering wheel, right? And you're like, we're going down this highway. This is the way to go. And I use the analogy. I have a book coming out called Show Me How Easy It Is. And it's a whole book about healing my relationship with hustle and the concept of life is hard. And it walks you through a lot of the work we do and how to heal and transcend in your own life. But that analogy of, okay, life is hard. This is the hallway we're on. We're going to be fucking successful, right? We're going to do it, but it's going to be hard. Don't worry, right? And so whatever your limiting belief is, your paradigm, right? Of like, oh, I can do it, but I'll be broke, or I can do it, but I can't trust anyone, or I can do it, you fill in the blank, but I'm not going to be enough, or et cetera, et cetera. So, that's what white knuckling is. And we're really, the windows are up, we're driving, we got our car full of proof of why this paradigm is true and real, and the perspective is the only perspective there is. And I think of the analogy of like, sometimes we have these moments that bring us to our knees. And I no longer in my life need to be brought to my knees so damn hard. I don't need to have life-threatening disease. I don't need to be divorced. I don't need all these horrible things to crumble, because I listen. I fucking listen now. And I don't wait till I'm sick 4 years later to go, maybe hustling that hard isn't good for your health, Elizabeth. I listen when I'm tired and I rest, and then I get back to it. But I, got brought to your knees. So how many times does something like that happen? Everyone can think of a moment where the world brings you to your knees and it's just like, shit, you know, so I got to do something different. What happens there is you lift your head up and you roll down the windows and you loosen your grip, right? And you feel the breeze come in, and maybe you can hear other possibilities, other availabilities. You see the pings and the nudges that were fucking chucking rocks at your window while you were driving, but you weren't paying attention because you were so, this is the highway I'm going to go down, and not available to the scenic route or this route or that route or anything else. And so it's opening up to the possibility of maybe I could be curious that something else is available. Maybe this isn't the only way it has to be, right? And so that's my analogy of it. And I think that there's probably not a person who can't relate to that, right? It's when we realize, oh, maybe there's a better way, whether it's through a coach or a friend or a divorce or whatever.
Yeah. And I think this is why I love like what you do and what you create for our industry now, because like a lot of what I hear you say too is like when you're white knuckling is like, it's like you have to be in control, like you're in control. And what happens when you live a little bit of life? Like I'm 38, so I don't know how old you are, you're younger than I am, but you realize that life actually, like you are not in control. Like life is going to knock you down and things are going to happen regardless if you're like this or like this. And that's why I loved that analogy, because I was just like, whoa, like how can life be different when you let, yes, right. Yeah. When you're open. So do you mind just like briefly sharing like what life was like? How did you exist in your day-to-day life when you were white knuckling? Like what did a normal day look like for you?
Totally. And you know, like I said, now, like I can see with loving eyes that version of self, and I'm sure someone else, if I was looking at a client, like I would walk them through a process of healing and letting go with love, with not judgment. And we would see, you know, where was that protection connected to, and how Elizabeth was just trying to stay safe in the world. She had big desires and she just wanted to exist safely. And it was the only way that she was open to or knew or right. So, what did it feel like? Is that the question?
Yeah. Like, so what did like a day look like when you were existing like that?
So I think the difference is, I love this Buddha quote, is pain is inevitable, struggle is optional. So here's the deal. Shit's going to happen. Sickness, life, death, challenges, we can't control other people. Someone's going to do something you don't like. That it's going to happen. How we experience it, how we respond to it, that's what creates ease in your life. That is the difference between a place of trust and ease and going, ooh, not what I would have preferred, not what I would have liked, not what I foresaw. Can I live in trust? Can I live in regeneration and letting go? Can I move on, right? Versus like, oh my God, and trying to manipulate and fix, right? All the things we do from wounding to just stay safe. So I think, you know, not that different and very different, if that makes sense. So like I could be doing the same. I always tell my clients, you could have the same exact fucking day, but with a healed perspective, a healed nervous system, it's going to feel like fight or flight, like stress response in the body, or ease, that rest and digest in the body. It's the experience of what you're doing is going to feel different. You might still do the hair. And from that space of ease, will you make more money? Of course. Will you attract people who are more aligned? Yes. Will you be more open to ideas and peace? Yes. So it's that it feels different. So I think the analogy is another one I love sharing. Can you walk up a river and get up a river? Yes. Are you going to get knocked the fuck down? Is it hard? Yes. And so it's like the moment you're like, wait, what if I just turn around and go with the river and realize I'm co-creating and I don't have to do everything and I can go down? How much better would the experience be of being on the river? Was the sun still nice and warm? Yeah. Were the birds still chirping? Yes. It's just going to feel harder. It's going to feel more like struggle. And so I think I accomplished a shit ton. I had a 7-figure business. I had multiple businesses. I loved what I did. I served thousands of people. Like I was still successful. I had a son. I had done all the things. It just felt like struggle. That's the difference. And now my life just feels like ease. And I can say yes when it feels good. And I can say no when it feels good. And it's okay. You know, and it's just a more of a space of alignment. And I no longer make choices from that wounded, stressed out space because I know I'm okay and I know I'm protected and I know it's abundant and I know, I don't have to chase. I can call in. And I think I went to every hair show. I said yes to every job. I took every client, even within my hours, and I had assistants. I had all the things. It just came from a different place, So it felt different to me. My clients may or may or not have noticed. I notice, my kid notices, my bank account notices, my life is going to literally be longer because I'm going to live longer because I feel comfortable in my body and my heart and my soul and my nervous system.
Yeah, totally. That makes total sense. Yeah. I love it. And thank you for sharing that because, yeah, I mean, I think that so many of us can get caught in that day to day, like hustle, like you're taught. I mean, I'm so excited that you wrote a book about this because, like, yeah, we can get caught in that hustle, especially when you're building your career, whether you're new in the industry or transitioning. Maybe you get from a salon to a different salon, or you're opening a salon. Like, there is a season of hustle, but it doesn't have to be the kind of hustle that is, that people preach out there.
It doesn't have to be wounded ambition and it doesn't have to be chasing. And here's the thing I've learned doing like products and events and brick and mortar and service and whatever fucking product you can think of, we've made it at some point, is there's always a reason to hustle. There's always a reason to grind. And when you come from that wounded place of it's never enough. Enough is not an amount. It is inside. And you will always have a new idea and a new business and a new thing you could constantly be working towards. And so it's like, can you trust your timeline? Can you be patient? Can you be supported? Can you work hard and it be fun and rest hard and it be fun? Like, that's balance. We need to come back into homeostasis all the time. I have projects or seasons, but they're just aligned and intentional. And if they take longer, it's not the end of the world. And I don't make it mean anything about my worth or my safety. It's just, my book was supposed to be out in fall. It's not out till next year. Our documentary is supposed to be out 2 years ago. It's out in May. I was supposed to be at a TED Talk in spring. It's now not happening in spring. Like, who fucking cares? It'll happen later. Like,
I love it. Yeah.
Like,
it's gonna happen exactly when it's supposed to happen.
It's already done. It just, like, the timeline hasn't calibrated to me yet. It's good.
Yeah. I love that perspective. And that kind of leads me right to my next question for you, which is, you've accomplished so much. Like, I'm so impressed by you. You're so inspiring. You literally have created everything under the sun in our industry. I'm like, what has she not done? Like, it's literally amazing. But I'm really curious, like, for you, what was the biggest miracle that you experienced when you started trusting and, letting go and believing that you and your life were being divinely guided?
Yeah. Whew. I'll say a personal and a business.
Yeah.
The personal miracle, and I mean, it's a whole other story for another time. I'm divorced and I have a partner now. We just got engaged last year. We've been together, thanks. I think this fall 6 years. We've been together a minute for still being not married, but that's fine. So, but we're excited. It just was our journey. And the miracle was, my little boy has ADD and he has some emotional issues, some things that were happening through my healing work. He's a different child. I think I can't not cry because it's like I've watched my healing affect my family and my personal life and my home and my partner. And for those who followed our story, he has really bad depression, anxiety, was super suicidal. We almost checked him into a clinic. It's been something he's dealt with for decades. And through our healing work, I mean, not that meds are good or bad, but he's been off for 3 years and he's a different human. And so I think the miracle personally is like, my health has changed. My son is different. My partner is different. We're happy. We're peaceful. Like, wow. You know what I mean? Like, that's the stuff that's like, you can't even post about it. It's so cool. You know what I mean? It doesn't there's no words. Yeah, that's divine. So I would say obviously personal wins are the number one. And that just feels good. And I think it's a beautiful representation for my clients, and for when I'm helping them with whatever they're going through, that and I'm sure we'll go through new things, but it's like we can trust that we can come back to that. So that's my favorite. And then professionally, I remember someone I was working with at the time, I was sharing with her, I've spoke for years and I have keynotes and meditations I share. And I was like, I'm so worried that if I have peace in my life, my keynotes won't be as good, which is so funny. She's like, what the fuck? Why? And I was like, because I really pull from pain. And she was like, oh, that's really interesting. And I was so afraid that if I moved past pain, I couldn't meet people in theirs to help them. And it was a beautiful opportunity for me to say, what's possible if I pull from peace? What's possible if I can pull from love? Now, knowing what I know, that's funny, right? I'm like, obviously that's way more expansive and empowering and supportive, and I can hold more space for someone when I'm not filled with anything other than being a clear channel. But I have seen that, and I already had a really successful business, and to see that it was still successful when I was okay, I think that was the first lesson of like, oh, wait, you're not successful because of pain. You're not successful because you bled, sweat, and tears, and that's what everyone fucking tells you to do. You're successful because you take aligned action. You're successful because you believe in what you do. You're successful because you share your message and those who align come to you. You're successful because, right, you follow your values and you lead like by who you fucking are. Those are the things that made you successful. Does it have to be hard to be successful? No. And then watching my company scale way more than I could have fathomed during COVID when we should have gone out of business. We were an event company during COVID for hairdressers. Like, who the fuck should have stayed in business?
Yeah, right.
And to watch us not only succeed, but to help thousands grow their business in a insane time, and that sisterhood grew even tighter, and then to watch us scale with ease was like, it's like when you feel like you have a cheat code and you're like, I'm working with the universe. Like, let me show you how we can all have the cheat code. So I think it's just like realizing like you're not alone. You don't have to control anything. Like, it's just that coming into that and watching it again and again, from my team to my body to my children to my bank account to my clients and their clients and their client. Like, it's just the ripple effect. It's insane. It's like real magic. It's really magic.
I love it. I can literally feel it when you talk about it. Like you can't make that stuff up. Like, it's really ridiculous that, during a freaking pandemic, you were helping hairstylists become more successful than they've ever been when they weren't even able to work.
Like, how are we growing and they're growing? And these stories are, I have hundreds of stories of this, and then you can see their businesses now, and especially all the coaches I helped and their community. It's just, the ripple effect is insane. It's insane. And everyone's a part of it. And I think that's like the difference is like, it's not like one person or one community or one coach or one hairdresser or one salon. It's like, no, we're all connected. And like, when we are abundant like that, it just boom, 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 boom,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for sharing and being so vulnerable to like just about your personal life and with your son, because that's just like such a testimony to, like, as a mom, I'm also a mom. And so, it's easy to put everybody else first, and especially if you have business and you have employees and things like that. But gosh, like, what a testimony to just making a decision for yourself and your own healing, and how that just like affected everything in your life. Like, that's amazing.
That's cool. I remember, and I'm going to say something on that. I think a lot of us, if you're at here, you're entrepreneurial, right? It's like the name of your event is the entrepreneur.
Right.
So easy as an entrepreneur to put everything else first and we're last, like you just said. And I had a thing on my desk that I'm sitting on right now for a few years that said, what if your happiness brought more abundance? And I would change out the word. What if your health? What if your joy? What if your peace brought more abundance? And I am telling you, and I tell so many I work with mostly female leaders, but I'm, not that it's only, but I work with a lot of feminine embodiment and healing and all of that. A lot of us entrepreneurs, we got a lot of fucking healing to do, or that's why we became entrepreneurs.
Yes, really.
We got to protect ourselves. So like, we got our shit to work on. But like the second I put me first, then my family, then my business, that was the game changer. And it's like you have to really do enough work to feel safe doing that. And some people hear it and they're like, yeah, let's do it. And some of you are like, that's not safe, and that's okay too. Like honor wherever you feel. But that's like the secret, man. Like put yourself first, then your family, then your business, and it will work out every time.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So let's talk about hair love a little bit, because I think that's like, I'm like this empire that probably has grown far beyond what you ever anticipated. Right. So I guess that's my question is hair love. And I heard a little bit about how you grew up and with your dad, and obviously you shared that you like were chopping wood. So like, your dad took you like camping and stuff, but tell me a little bit about hair love and how you took it from being like an idea, like a ping, to like an actual business.
Yeah, it took a minute because it wasn't a master plan. And if I could go back, I would probably make her sit down and make a business plan because I know it's a business now. So I will say we took the bumpy road because of that, but it really was a passion project, which is what made it so bumpy in the beginning. There's no fucking way this was like, I always tell people, like when people are like, what do you want in 10 years? I don't know, like the vision this girl has in 10 years, I couldn't even fathom because she's so many quantum leaps away. Like I don't even know her yet. Like how the fuck could I see what she can see? Yeah. So like that's why I just trust and move forward. But so it really started when I got divorced. I had done corporate education. I'd been in education all of my career. And so I worked with a company that was connected to Paul Mitchell, and then I was a Paul Mitchell beauty school teacher. So that was where I got my facilitation training, was there. And then I worked for a company that was super heavy in education. So I got to travel the world doing education as assistants and junior stylists. I had, some of the best mentors you could imagine. So I was really mentored by incredible educators. So education's been my life, my entire career. And those are the two things, hairstylists. We believe hairstylists change the world and education unlocks human potential. And that's what we do. We are an education company. So, which is why I end up helping a lot of educators because I run an education company, right?
Love it. Yeah.
Anyway, so when I was going through a divorce, the salon I was working at and being a beauty school teacher, I could no longer make that income. It was too little working too many days. I think I was working like 6 days a week. And I said, I can't work 6 days a week as a mom with a new baby. I need to work like 3, but I can't make any less money or I won't be able to pay my bills. They couldn't, I was like top everything. They're like, we can't pay you more. I was making like 10, 12 bucks an hour as a teacher, like top commissions. Like I was shitty pay, but like that was all they could do. So I was kind of forced to go independent, and I was really scared because I'd done it once before and it failed. But I had a baby. I was like, whatever, we're going to figure it out. So I just went booth rental, kept it simple, didn't like open up anything, just got an assistant. I had a full clientele, like did weddings. Like I had a thing going. I had a blog, like it was good. I just had to go independent, which was kind of scary with a new baby.
Right.
And I was like, well, crap, I guess I'll do my education independent now too, because the owner of the salon owned the school. So it was like awkward.
Gotcha.
I kind of lost both jobs. So I started doing workshops, and I had a lot of friends who owned salons or schools, and I did the paintbrush method. So I was like one of the first people who was paintbrushing. So I was doing the paintbrush, and I did these little like mindset business paintbrush workshop. And I literally was just cleaning out my notebook the other day. I wish I had it because they're so cute.
I love looking back at those like notebooks that you like put ideas in and stuff.
You have to, let me see if I can find it. You
Okay.
Okay. Let me see in my closet. Here we go.
Yes.
Okay. You ready for some fun stuff?
Yes. I love it.
My first e-course, 2000, it was 13 or 14.
Oh, is it a vision board? I love it.
Oh, no. It is a fucking notebook. It is called Beauty School for the Everyday Ordinary Girl. That is me.
Oh
I had like blow dry tutorials, brush guides. It was actually really good.
I love it, actually. No
one bought it. So rude. And I did a workshop. I forced people to come. And then I started doing my paintbrush classes, which I actually did a really good job. They're like super pretty.
Beautiful.
Like, yeah, they were beautiful. I taught That was what I did, to paintbrush for years. So I started doing those and it just grew and it was super organic. Like another salon would refer someone and then I would do a class for them and then for them. And so I did that for 4 years and that was our community. Like a lot of my clients now, even in my high level masterminds, have been with me for a long time. So
Wow.
I started doing those and then sometimes we'd have level 2s or whatever. And then that led to, we had a course called Workshop in a Box, which we ran for 4 years. We just rebranded it. But so that kind of became our signature program, but it was like slow. So the hair love. My dad growing up, I hiked, I camped, the teepees there, a lot of them are my family teepees. Like my grandpa literally whittled the poles, the skin, he used to hunt buffaloes, like it's a whole thing. And they bring them to rendezvous in Vegas. So we grew up Mormon, and so they bring them to like Mormon events or school events or charity events or troubled youth things, and they teach them about the teepees and community and how people gather. And my dad growing up brought me to rendezvous where people trade. So at a rendezvous, different walks of life come together and you trade goods. So sometimes you get like a fur or beads or those cute like crystal suckers, you know?
Yeah.
Or like food. And so I was like, well, what if we made a rendezvous where everyone came and traded education and it was community? So it was like girls camp meets a rendezvous meets the spiritual side. And my dad led the hikes and my dad's a yoga teacher at night in Vegas. So I grew up doing all that. So he did that and it was supposed to be a one-time thing. And I did brides for years, so I had a lot of friends who were chefs and caterers, and all my girlfriends were amazing educators or influencers. So I just kind of like called up everybody and was like, I got a hair up my ass, like let's do a wild, like, is that the phrase? I have a wild hair up my ass? No, nothing's up my ass.
I know, no.
Nothing's up my ass today. But whatever.
I know what you're saying.
Something got up my ass. So I was like, let's do this crazy thing. And they're like, whatever you say, let's do it. Right. And I had brought it up at a few of my classes. I was like, who wants to do a retreat? And they literally put their credit cards in the air. Like I was like, let's go, girls. Like, let's do a fucking party. And I did workshops, but retreats and workshops are a different beast. I didn't know that. Little naive Elizabeth was like, it's a 5-day workshop. It'll be fine. No.
Yeah. No.
But thank God I had amazing friends and events and florists and caterers. And I still work with a lot of them. And they literally they were the OGs. Like it was hard to describe the Hair Love vision because I didn't have anything to show you. Like I'm like, Burning Man meets girls camp meets a rendezvous. They're like, what the fuck's a rendezvous? Like, what are you talking about?
What are you talking about? Yeah.
It was so hard to tell my team and my vendors my vision. I had to show the industry my vision through doing it, which is not an easy thing to do because it's much easier to say, I saw this thing, I'd like to make it my own. It's very different to be like, I have a weird brain baby that's 10 things in one. Let's go.
Yeah.
And people believe in you. So we did it. And literally, I'd be like, no, I need smoke and lights and more mics. And the guy's like, what? So our AV guy would drive into town, bring back the smoke machine, bring the lights. He still does our stuff, but he knows now, we are going level 12.
Yeah.
He flamethrowers our last event. He knows, I will
go big.
Yeah, my team is closing their eyes. They're like, whatever.
I love it.
So that's how we did it. And then at the end of the event, we were before the event, we're like, should we launch another one? Should we not? And we had it prepared to do it. And halfway through the event, it was so hard. We didn't sleep for 5 days. Literally we're going to bed at 4 a.m. Yeah. It was just we needed more staff. We'd never done it before, but it went amazing for the retreaters. It was hard for us.
Yeah, right.
And we were I was like, I can't do this. I'm too tired. This is too hard. But it was also oh my God, this is exactly what I should be doing. I just need a nap. So it was very polarizing. And I remember crying in the closet being like, I want to do it, but I can't do it. And my team was like, no, we're fucking doing it. And we launched it there and we sold 75 to 80% of our tickets that day. And Maisie looked at me because she had started working for me for free and she's now our director of events 6 years later. And she's like, oh, we did something. We did something. We changed lives. And we were just crying. We just changed so many lives. I don't know where this is going, but let's go. Like, and it's just been, I mean, we've done 6 conferences, we've done a tour, 3 huge events, 3 big retreats, 12 masterminds, so many, I mean, thousands of people in our programs, podcasts. I mean, just who the hell would have guessed? Like, I don't even know.
Yeah. All from that idea.
So it was literally not until I think a year and a half later that I was like, I have to make this a real business to keep my employees and to maintain this because I mean these events are like $500,000 events throughout. They are insane. And so it was like we lost so much. We lost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like it was a whole thing. And we had to have a come to Jesus that was like, if you love this, this has to look different. It
Yeah.
has to. And I made money doing coaching and hair and salon and stuff. So I was just paying for it from my other stuff. And I finally was like, I can't do that. Like if I like one time, okay, whatever, be fucking crazy and do it. But
Yeah.
2 times, like there comes a point where you're like, what are we doing and why are we doing it? And
Yeah.
we're like, okay, we're changing the industry, so we have to make it a business. And so which is like any business owner knows, it's more investing, more learning, more building your team, more taking classes, more hiring consultants and coaches. And then that one was bad and that one was good. And then eventually you figure it out, you know?
Oh my God, there's like so like that's like mic drop right there because you literally brought out like your stuff from when you first started until like now you have directors of this and stuff. And I mean, I just want anyone who's listening to this to like hear that like sometimes you don't have that bigger vision. You could have never imagined it would turn into this. Like you just took this idea you had and like kept rolling with it. And even when no one bought your shit, like to start, like you kept going and like, you know what I mean? And so even before you were teaching all of this stuff, you were listening, you were listening and taking that action. So that's a beautiful thing. And another thing I just hear is, when you have an idea, it's given to you for a reason. Like only you, like literally only Elizabeth Faye and your experience and your upbringing and your dad and the people that you knew could have brought together to create the Hair Love Retreat, right? Only you, like no one else could do that, right? So it's like when you get those ideas, like run with them, like how powerful. And now it's turned into like literally impacting lives, thousands and thousands of lives. Like that's amazing.
Fun. And it's like, yeah, it's taken on a life of its own. It's really cool.
So
Yeah.
crazy. So, oh my gosh, I have a couple more questions for you. Let's just dive in. How do you balance it all? Like you're like a powerhouse. What do you do for balance?
Yep. Like I said earlier, you first. You have to come first above your kids, above your partner, above everything, because then you're living your life from overflow and not never catching up. Does that make sense? And that's a spiritual, emotional, inward thing. This is for me what I believe to be the secret to success and an aligned success. Not success at all costs, not success at cost of your finances and your health and your family. Like that's going up the river. We don't have to do it that way, right? So like my health is my number one priority, my emotional well-being. And so I have an arsenal of tools, whether that be meditation or working out or breath or movement or yoga. I teach my clients emotional expression. If you've never been in my work, it sounds crazy. There's like movement and weird noises and there's things, but it's moving through because stress is pressure in your life and the body carries emotions and trauma. So constantly letting that go, learning to embody our feminine, learning to balance our energies. I just believe that's the secret to all like aligned success. So like my work with myself is my priority. The way my home feels, the way my body feels is number one. And that means sometimes my book doesn't go out till next year because it would have made my sacrifice of my health go out to get it done by fall. And when I put that first, I know my book launch is going to be even bigger. You know what I mean? And so it's like, but I had to trust that that's okay, And so that's how I do it. And I don't do it alone. I'm co-creating with God, universe, and a team. And whether that be your partner, your assistant, your amazing housekeeper, like whatever your team is, even if it's tiny, like if someone's helping you keep your house clean, that's your team. If your mom is helping you babysit, that's your team. Now my team looks a lot more sophisticated, but like it didn't in the fucking beginning. Like, and it just grows. And we're still a tiny team. Like we have 4 full-time employees that have been with us forever, and like probably 8 random freelancers that do different random one-off things. Like that's a tiny team for the impact we have. Do you know what I mean?
Totally.
And but it started with just me and a little assistant, and then that assistant grows. And so don't do it alone. You don't have to do it alone. Collaborate, and you come first, period, the end.
Yeah, I
You
love
come
it.
first, and you'll be fine. Everything else will work out.
It's so true. I love it. All right. So I want to end with a bonus question that I have been asking every single expert that I've been interviewing. And the one question is, if you could only give one piece of advice, just one, to hairstylists and salon owners building their business today, what would that be?
Invest in yourself. Hire a good coach.
Yep.
Just do, because they're gonna put you in a space to hold space for whatever. Right, and your business is different. If you are in a commission world, you might want a very specific person who works with, like everyone's going to have a different need, but find that person that can hold space for you, give accountability, and is aligned with you. They're going to help you put you first. A good coach is. They're going to help you put your goals, your health, your wealth, your, all of that. And so put you first and hire a coach, and the rest is fine.
Great advice. I love it. Amen to that. So, do you want to share with everybody like what you have going on, where they can find you?
Yep. So I think you guys will see this after our digital event, which is fine because we're premiering a documentary called Hairstylists Change the World. And at the time when you see this, go to our website. It'll either be on Amazon or you can sign up to find it somewhere. We're still, the time of this recording, we're figuring out where it's streaming, but it's going to stream somewhere. I think it'll be Amazon though. So you should watch it. And so that's amazing. And then Hair Love University, just go to resources documentary and it'll take you there. And there's so much fun stuff there. I mean, you can there's planners and podcasts and so many things. Yeah, so you can play there. I'll create something free for your community that's education. I'll throw in some breath work. If you're like, what are these weird woo-woo activities? I'll throw some in for you. I'll throw a little business in too, but I'm sure you're going to have plenty of business support through this event. So I'll get weird with you.
I love it.
Yeah, just go to Hair Love University. You'll see all the things.
Yes, and if everything is there.
You'll find it. And then the other one will be heylizwithfaye.com. There's plenty of things.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much. This conversation was so much fun. Thank you for being here, Elizabeth.
Thank you, my love.
You're so welcome.